Dawes County Board of Commissioners work session on next Thursday, February 6th. We appreciate your attendance. We'll get right into new business. First up, we have presentation of request to accept 2020 Criminal Justice Coordinating Council K-9 grant. Chief Deputy Greg Rowland. Greg.
Good afternoon, folks. This is the same Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, I can say that, grant we've gotten since like 1999. Total that's $112,204, and that's for two deputy sheriffs, their salaries. And if I'm not mistaken, it doesn't cover every piece of that salary, but it covers the majority of the two deputies, actually rank corporate salaries. And once again, we're basically just here asking you to accept this and have an award this grant. And I know it's my understanding that they want this to carry over to somebody from finance wants to carry over to tonight for a vote at 6
6
o'clock.
o'clock. It's got a
Because
time
of
frame on it?
time frame, right.
Okay.
Any questions you might have?
Questions for Greg?
This is K-9.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said it's not fully funded, it's partially funded, and then it's already in the budget for the rest of it.
That's correct.
Other questions for Greg? All right, so y'all do that 6 o'clock?
Yes.
All right, thank you,
We
Greg.
don't want to lose out on $112,000.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have presentation of special event business license application. Hippie Fest.
Oh, that's scary.
Director
This is scary.
Jameson Kinley. We're gonna try a little different thing tonight. We're Skyping him in because he's in class, and so you can see him.
He's in
And,
sunshine.
so, all right, Jameson, you go ahead, buddy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You sound pretty distant, but I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Everybody out
We
there, can y'all hear?
can see you too.
All right.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you all for this opportunity, allowing me to Skype in from the Gaza conference. Down here, Harmony and I are trying to get our AICP certifications. Am I loud enough?
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right. Perfect. I'm down in LaGrange, Georgia. So, there's over 70 municipalities down here, including the city of Dawsonville, Forsyth, all White County. Quick thank you to Herman and Laura for allowing me to do this, setting this up. They have been rock stars through this process. We are discussing Hippie Fest. So the who, what, where, when, and why, and how of Hippie Fest. First of all, I just want to say that there's no affiliation with the Rainbow Gathering held in Dahlonega a year or so ago. So I just want to clear that up right off the bat. But this festival does celebrate the 60s with tie-dye stations, colored bubble stations, food trucks, local art vendors, a car show. The applicant is MLH Farms, Matthew Hughes. He's also the one that owns the special event business license for Uncle Chuck's Corn Maze. It is at that same location. Let's see here, the corner of Bannister Road and Highway 9 South, located right next to our river, Puddin Park. The dates of this, the win is March 14th and 15th, Saturday and Sunday, noon to 7. The how really is basically they're using the same location as Uncle Chuck's. The parking the traffic control plan was basically the same. There was a lot of discussions back and forth in between the sheriff's office, emergency services, health department, and the planning. But nonetheless, Matthew has met all the requests in order to get the signatures of those departments. And I believe he is there, and Diane is there as well. If she's been with me through the whole process, I'll answer any questions. If not, I'm sure one of them can.
Questions for Jameson?
What's the hours of operation? You said it's the 14 to 15. It's
12 to 7.
12 to 7, that's right.
Other questions for Jameson?
What about, is parking going to be an issue? You know, if there's over 200 vendors and maybe 140 campers and, is
Hold
there
up,
enough
Matthew.
room?
This is Matthew right here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey.
we talked briefly
Yes,
about
we
that.
have.
Parking will not be an issue. We have 48 acres total, so we'll have about 22 acres of parking.
How many people what's your busiest day at the corn maze? I mean, you've got, how many cars roughly? Give me a perspective.
Cars, we've had over 500 cars at one time. had over 5,000 people in the gate, so.
Okay.
Okay, you talk about alcohol, in one report here it says that there will be alcohol if it's approved, but then on another report, I don't see the request for that.
No alcohol.
That's been pulled.
That
It
has been
has?
pulled.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad, because I'm just gonna tell you. See, I'm old enough I could have been a hippie, but I wasn't. And I could just remember the connotation was terrible. And I've told you that before, you know. You can't be with the one you love the one you're with. You know, all that kind of stuff. And pot smoking and, I mean, they were, it was just everything. See, you don't know, you're so young. I didn't go to Woodstock.
No, but I can guarantee you everyone will be closed.
But I'll just tell you, and so I'm so glad about alcohol because this house itself is family friendly with Christian values.
Correct.
Now, when I hear about alcohol and that does not mesh with me. So I am glad that's full. That's the first I've heard of it. I was sweating that. I did not like that at all. But, I don't know. I just wish it was named something else. But he's not gonna, I mean, you don't own this.
Correct.
Somebody else owns it.
Correct.
But I'm just afraid when somebody hears hippie fest, I just don't know who y'all's gonna call them.
Well, we could call it the 70s festival, but I think everyone thinks the same thing.
Yeah, well, some of this hippie stuff is in the 60s.
I agree with Sharon. Sometimes you get negative connotations with that. You've run a really good operation, from my knowledge, over the last several years, and this moving to the new location, this is another opportunity to do something on that site. I would assume that's in that agritourism type realm and tourism. My perception is you're not going to do anything. I hope you vetted this very, very well because your main bread and butter comes from the other things so far. And so I would guess that you vetted it very well. And you're comfortable enough with putting your name on the line for, the thing. So
We've worked on this for over 3 years, so yes, it's, any negative feedback, I will always address.
And I think on the application, it said there was just one food vendor, and then again, I mean, one food vendor can't feed this many people.
No, that was, I'm supplying one food vendor. We'll have other food vendors. Right now, there's 4 signed up, so we're capping it at 10, mainly for the fire department to do inspection. And we're still getting them a very detailed site plan once we have everything finalized for how many vendors we actually have.
Those are the food trucks, right?
Yes.
But I think Bill Ringel said in his comments that there could be as many as 10.
That's the maximum.
Yeah.
And then the comments by Jeff Bailey, and it had said that all the points, he had excellent points, but everything had been addressed. So is he okay?
Yeah, other than the final site plan. Yeah.
Okay.
Once we get approval. then-
Who's saying yes?
They're back there. Jeff's back there too.
Okay, do like this. That's good. So that's okay.
and you do have two officers on site during.
We're gonna have 2 off-duty officers.
Okay.
Both days.
Okay.
And how many people are we projecting? 'Cause I know on their site, they said they've already sold tickets and sold out. So how many is that?
We're not sold out of tickets, so we kind of put this out there early to get some feedback, because it's the first time this is happening in Georgia. So we want to see what kind of feedback we get, especially after what happened in Huntington, which again is no relation at all. So, we're only allowing the vendors to camp on site, which allows them to finish another camp. But 140 of them is the maximum amount to allow to camp.
140
Yeah.
campers, or 140 total individuals?
140 total.
So if you got that many vendors, you don't have that many campsites?
We're going to have over 200 vendors.
Because I know on their site, it said they already sold out all the camping tickets, but
Which is 140.
do we have the facilities to handle that many campsites down there? I know it's primitive, but still.
Most, I think a lot of people visualize the people in tents. Most of this is campers and other people.
So they can handle their own waste and all, water.
Yes, correct.
We don't have any dump sites in the county other
Yeah, down
than one that I know of.
You can handle that.
He's on dump trailers.
You'll have porta johns
We will.
too. How many are you planning?
The health department's actually supposed to give us a number, but probably 10.
Well, in the paperwork, it says like 18 had been suggested.
You'll have to have whatever they
Yeah, whatever they suggest.
require.
But I haven't received that back from you.
Other questions for Matthew or Jameson? Thank you.
Chief Bailey. Chief, so he's answered all the questions you've submitted?
He has.
And how many, I guess, not knowing how many people are gonna be there, how many event managers you gotta have per, what, 200 people?
He's got
One,
one bill, one for 500.
500?
Very 500 after the open hours. The evening, he's agreed to supervise the site after hours, after 7 p.m. till the next morning, right on night. So if you, him for that, we're going to cross patrol and so anything.
So y'all give it all the questions you got?
Yes, sir, we are.
Anything else? Before we move on. All right, we'll move on to presentation of abatement of nuisance property ordinance. Planning and Development Director Jameson Kenny. Jameson. Still with me? All right.
I didn't get a question.
All right.
Sorry.
We're ready for the presentation of the abatement of the nuisance property ordinance.
Yes. Ready for the nuisance abatement ordinance. Absolutely. Am I good to go?
Yes, sir.
All right, awesome. So at this point, I should have Angela and Grayson at the podium. Angela is my administrative assistant as the chief marshal, and Grayson is our code enforcement officer, boots on the ground. Just real quick, giving them a quick plug. Angela in quarter 4. She did 5 weeks worth of work that would have kept Grayson in the office. Y'all approved her position last year. Obviously, she hasn't been here that long, probably about 6 months or less. But 13 weeks and a quarter, she allowed 5 weeks for him to be out in the field, which is extremely, extremely important. As well as this nuisance abatement ordinance. The purpose of this ordinance is to provide enforcement authority to Dawson County structures that affect the health, safety, and welfare of the people of Dawson County. It's going to apply, if approved passed, it's going to apply to both commercial and residential structures through the marshal's office. The standards for determining a violation are things like defects, increasing hazards like fire, accidents. Let's see, we have the lack of ventilation, light, sanitary facilities, dilapidation, disrepair, structural defects, uncleanliness, all things that deal with the long-term neglect of a structure. I did have put into the ordinance that we will require 5 complaints from residences before we investigate, and that just kind of keeps us in order, because as they call Angela, obviously just one call wouldn't warrant us going out and spending a bunch of time, because this is a significant process. You get all the surrounding property owners together, and they come in, they provide us 5 complaints. It's definitely worth going through the process. The process really is laid out in the ordinance, which all of you have in front of you, but basically it's just the first step is identifying a structure. That can come from the county or from a citizen or from the citizens. We inspect the property. At that point, our main thing is to bring it into compliance. If that doesn't happen in the time that we set down, we work out with the property owner Obviously, we'll serve the complaint via first-class mail. It'll go before magistrate. Order of the court will be done. If they were to failure to comply, we have procedures that we go through from that. Ultimately, we have the ability to put a lien on the property. Obviously, that's worst case scenario. We always, hope for the best, plan for the worst, but this is a great ordinance for us to have in our back pocket, mainly because a lot of these structures are dilapidated and need to be removed from the property because they are harboring animals and wildlife and other things that, that directly affect the neighborhood itself and their neighbors. This will lead to probably a property maintenance ordinance and the updating of our solid waste and litter control ordinance, which we do have in hand, and we are working with our attorneys to draft those now. Like I said, obviously we have our attorneys there. They are extremely familiar with this ordinance as well as Angela and Grayson. And I'll do my best to answer and hear any questions you have.
Questions for Jameson?
Well, now, you know I'm gonna have a question.
Go ahead.
I think it said that it had to be 5 written complaints.
Yes, ma'am.
So somebody can't call in and you can't document, that they called. Do they have to write a letter, an email, or, it's not
So-
sufficient just to call in?
So the reason we provide we prefer written complaints is because we get the name of the complainant, we have their signature, and basically we have a form for our written complaints that says that they would be willing to show up in court if it goes that far. And that's really big when it comes to the investigation and the pursuit of this ordinance.
And you're having lots of complaints now about
Yes.
terrible structures? You are? You are?
We had one just this morning.
You did?
Yes.
And what's happened? I mean, people are just moving off and abandoning stuff, or I don't understand what's happening.
They're just abandoned structures that it's usually when people they either own a piece of property and they moved on from it, and they just don't take care of it.
Or people died and there's no
Mm,
family,
yes,
do you
ma'am.
have any of that?
That happens quite a bit.
Some of them are out of state ownership as well, so they don't have interest here. Structure.
And some people just do not want to address it.
Yeah.
They know that the county, I mean, from my perspective, the short time that I've been here, they realize we don't have any stronghold on it. No, we can slap them on the hand, we can warn them, we can ask, the neighbors can ask, but at this juncture, if they choose to do nothing, don't want to go to the expense, or don't really care, they don't live here, they're not going to do anything about it. We had one just like that today, it was very morning.
Yeah, I see the need for addressing dilapidation. I mean, some of the things are listed with the increase to fire hazards. We addressed a tire ordinance recently because of the water that collects, and we have nuisance and issues, health issues with spreading disease amongst mosquitoes and things like that. Structural defects, I get that, disrepair. I'm also in the flip. I mean, it's very balanced that we have to take this because I'm a private property guy, rights as well. How do we define? I think I'm good with everything. The number 6, which is uncleanliness. What is a broader definition of uncleanliness, and who defines that? Because uncleanliness to me might be one thing. Uncleanliness to Sharon might be something else. So I would like to see us maybe potentially drill down on a finer definition of uncleanliness or how it's.
Right. I would think.
And that might be a legal question.
Sure. Well, I think that's a fair point because, anyone might be able to stand charged with unclean houses from time to time.
She was looking at me.
Yeah, no, I was speaking for myself, but that's not, of course, what this is about. Leading into that section, though, if you're focused on that number C6,
Yeah.
the determination that must be made is that the dwelling, building, or structure is unfit
Right.
for human habitation or for its current commercial use, or that it's injurious to public health and safety, or that it's being used, for criminal harboring criminal activity. And then it goes on to give this list of these conditions may include. But I think you have to start with the concept that it has to be deemed unfit.
Right.
And then here's some of the ways it could be deemed unfit. So I think you have to read those, all of that together. So just
Okay.
an unclean house that we can't make a larger conclusion that it's unfit for habitation is not going to rise to the level of stating a charge.
Okay, no, that's
So-
fair.
And I think I can speak for Grayson and Jameson, that there's not gonna be an interest in, being, sanitation police necessarily. This is truly to get at unfit, unsafe, dangerous conditions, where it's either gonna hurt people who are in and around the property, or hurt the neighborhoods because of the harboring of criminal activity or infestation of rodents and mosquitoes and things like that. So it's really a public health and safety focus.
Okay, fair enough, thank you.
Then I got a question, I guess leading into that too is unsafe, unhealthy, and unsafe to citizens, unsafe to public safety, sheriff, fire, EMS, whatever. And if we got a rural area that maybe somebody goes by there once, and they're the only ones complaining, are we liable that we only get one complaint, we don't do anything about it, and somebody gets hurt?
Well, that's a good question, and I think that's why in the complaint section 48-3, there could be a unilateral action by a code compliance officer, the county manager, law enforcement, someone with the county. County authority could initiate the complaint and proceed, or by 5 written complaints.
I just hate to wait
So-
for 5 and
Right, but I think the
between 1 and 5,
practicality
we
of
get
that,
somebody
right.
hurt.
I think the practical aspects of that is if you get one complaint, but the county were to view it and see that it's in such a state of danger, then on our own accord, we can pursue a complaint. So we don't have to wait for 5, but if we have, neighbors coming in and maybe we don't deem it to rise to the level of unfit and unsafe, then we're gonna require 5 neighbors to bring it forward before we're gonna commence the process. But we can commence the process at any time. And in the situation that you mentioned, maybe there's not 5 neighbors surrounding, but maybe it is terribly dangerous, and we could, on our own accord, pursue that, not
And
wait.
I guess, and maybe the language is in here, to be honest, I haven't read through the whole thing, but, if the owner is unresponsive and we have a critical condition that needs to be addressed, then that would fall along those lines as well. I mean,
Right.
It really gets down to it.
And that's usually what happens. I mean, I think very often, I think it's more the exception, if you have an owner-occupied dwelling, usually they will try in some respect to work with you, if they have the capability or the mental function. Sometimes there's some issues there that mean we don't get compliance, but more times than not, it's because there's nobody in it. It's abandoned, property under out of state, as the county manager mentioned. Many times it's been foreclosed on, and we're trying to deal with the bank. That happens a lot as well. And then the bank's not motivated perhaps to clean the property up because they see it's worth less than it is to just let it sit. So, yeah, there is a process where we can proceed once we've gone through the process of providing adequate notice as it's specified in the ordinance, and we can proceed to go to court, get the order, clean it up or demolish it ourselves, place a lien on the property to require that those costs be paid, and then we've remedied the situation for the public health and safety.
Now, this is just about safety. This is not about eye pollution and the landscape. It looks awful.
That's right.
If it's standing out there and nobody's living in it or whatnot, even though it looks, trees growing through the roof and all that. So that is not part of this.
Now, this is not as
This
bad
is
as
just
that.
safety.
Right, so someone, could paint their house purple and green, and you see sometimes cases like
Yeah.
that, and those might, bring other claims before us, but likely it would be an individual property rights dispute between neighbors, not us. But this is all about public health and safety.
And was this modeled after another county and it works?
Yes, this ordinance is largely the same. I see Jameson nodding his head.
Is it-
Cherokee County, Forsyth County, Newton County all have part and parcel of the same ordinance.
And
And
so
probably
it works.
others.
It works, so.
Yeah, I've personally brought several of these charges and gone through the judicial proceedings and ended with everyone being very pleased with the results and a safer property being determined.
It's very expensive to demolish and clean something up. It truly is, so.
And there's a
It
process
is.
for the lien, you know, to put a lien on the property that has to be paid before that property could be sold. You know, the reality is, you can't always count on that ever bearing fruit, but that's the stopgap that allows us to potentially recover the cost. But that's something that on each one of these we'll obviously have to take into account. Is, you know, is there an opportunity to clean short of demolishing, or what's the best use of county resources?
Are we hoping that people will know about this and keep stuff up? Is that something that we hope, or? Yeah, that'd be ideal.
Well, I think to Angela's point, without this, we have not had a lot of teeth. We do have a solid waste and littering ordinance already in place that has some similar process that allows us to do some cleanup and place a lien. But here, if you can say to the property owner, do this, or we might get an order to demolish the structure, that's going to get a little more attention. So this gives us some teeth. But through the process, I think I can speak for Jameson and Grayson, that the goal is going to be compliance. It's going to be going to the property owner, giving them notice first, and working through. I mean, this is the end of the line. This is not how we'll approach things on the front end.
What if the cleanup's more expensive than, you know, what they have? I mean, do we get stuck with a bill?
Well, the ordinance speaks to that.
Does
that-
it?
Right, we can put a lien
But-
on the property for cleanup costs or demolition costs, but it does speak to the concept of making a determination whether there could be a repair, alteration, or improvement that's at a reasonable cost in relation to the value of the structure
Okay.
versus whether the demolition is more reasonable in terms of cost versus the repair. So
Okay.
that is provided for, and then a court also, if it gets to that point, the court will make that determination and say, this is the most reasonable use of resources.
I know over the years, we've had many incidences where the structure partially burned. And that structure would sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there because maybe who was living in the mobile home or home was renting.
Yeah.
They didn't have any insurance, so there was nothing done there, and the landowner had no desire to spend any money on it as well. So we still have some of those structures that are out there today that have been on fire several years ago, and they're just sitting there, dilapidated. This is where you have like animals going in those, and you know, you have public safety and health problems that could be associated with that.
So, I was just thinking, an example in my head, where would the old motel there on 400 on the right, I mean, if those buildings have been dilapidated and you could potentially see crime taking place there, and I mean, that would be something that we're really trying to mitigate is potential hazardous issues, and that's a good example of it.
And that's a prime example of not having anything in place either, because we haven't been able to enforce it. Staff spends time researching and sending letters and certified letters that just get ignored, especially for folks that are out of state. And I know in your packet, Jameson had provided a picture of a home that was completely, pretty much gone. And that individual was a California resident that has ignored any of the letters and stuff that we sent him. So it gives us some more people to be able to enforce that.
I want to open up Pandora's box real quick. Does this apply just to structures, or does it apply to privately owned parking lots with very deep potholes?
That's a good question. Let me just look at the language. I mean, I think the purpose here is a dwelling, building, structure, or property is unfit for human habitation or is unfit for its current residential, commercial, industrial, or business use. If the public officer finds that the conditions exist are dangerous or injurious to the health, safety, and morals of the occupants, or the folks that use. So, I mean, conceivably, yes. Conceivably, I think on the face of the statute, yes. I think perhaps it would be a high standard to determine that it's dangerous or presents injury to the health and safety of the public. But it may be that it does. I mean, if it's like sinkhole type of holes, then I think it well could be.
I know we have some that would swallow a Prius, and I think that we tried to push
I think that could fit.
those property owners into repairing those main thoroughfares that are in our business districts that are issues. And if we have teeth behind it, then I think that's to the well-being of the general public.
And you have the same issue, because I know our public works director has made, and his staff have made numerous phone calls over and over and over and over and over again to some of these people who, like I say, own these parking lots and property and potholes, and you can go down there now to the one next to the bank, and get stuck right there if you get in that hole. So, yeah.
Well, the one at the outlet mall connecting over to Dunkin' Donuts, nice.
So if we don't have the verbiage for that, maybe we should make sure we add that verbiage to make sure we can cover that as well.
Tighten it up.
Yeah.
Can that be done? Can we get into the?
Yeah, I mean, I think it may cover it right now, but we'll read it again with that in mind. I mean, I don't think it's intended to be a pothole ordinance, but I don't think that's what you're saying. I think you're saying it's something, and it's on private property, private commercial.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some serious issues on major thoroughfares on private property, parking lots and roads that have been taken over that are not really drivable. I mean, I could see that it causes a safety issue because you're having to swerve around them, and I mean, I could vouch for that. At least to give us some more teeth into the request, the repeated request of fixing it for public benefit.
Yeah, I mean, there are, as Mr. Gaines has stated, there are some of these that are so large that you will get in the opposite lane if you're going to pass.
Yeah.
Because you can't drive through it.
And these are
That's definitely
private
safety.
roads?
Yes.
Private roads.
Roads and parking lots as well, yes.
So we'll take another look at that with an eye towards that issue. That's a new one for me to say.
Even if we have to look at that separately, but whatever we need to do, take a look at that. Because we don't have any teeth for that either
Sure, okay.
at the moment. Other questions for staff, Jameson, the attorney? All right, thank y'all. Thank you, Jameson. Go back to class.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
All y'all going to do.
No.
Sitting at home.
Can't escape on vacation anymore.
All right, next up, we have the presentation of the automatic aid agreement with Pickens County, Emergency Service Director Danny Thompson. Danny, we've been working on this in a while.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, you are correct. As you all may remember, in January of 2019, we successfully signed an IGA when we turned over the day-to-day operation of what was formerly known as Station 8, now Pickens County Station 10, over to Pickens County. Myself and Jeff Strickland, one of the partners at Angie's firm, have worked vigorously with Pickens County for over a year to make this thing happen. But with that, we have presented to you all that you have in your packet a signed and approved and voted on by the Pickens County Board of Commissioners. And now we're presenting that to you all. It's the standard format of automatic aid agreement. It outlines in there a map and coverage area for both Pickens and Dawson County. Narrows it down even to the scope to include all the roads. And this is specific to fire department response, not necessarily EMS response. EMS is still done through a mutual aid agreement. The call we send if we're available. I'll answer any questions you all may have on this. It basically completes what we started in January of 19.
Questions for Chief Thompson?
Pickens is happy with it. He signed it, hadn't he? What did I say, Rob?
Yep, they've signed it. I think the biggest holdup was we had to work our way through the map and the territory areas that we were going to cover and they were going to cover in precipitation. And so now we have that, and it is agreeable to both sides if this board decides to sign up.
There were some radio issues at one point, it seems like, where somebody called 911 and got transferred back. All that's good.
Yeah.
So that's something that's really, the cell tower sits actually there at Station 10. And the problem is if you dial 911 from your cell phone, it's gonna hit that tower.
Right.
And it's gonna route you to Pickens County 911 every time. It has to be covered. And that's just the nature
of cell phone.
You can't change that.
Okay.
Not me, you, or anybody else.
Okay.
Well,
That's
that's
just the nature of the tower.
But that didn't help. What is her name that does the 911?
Alicia.
Yeah, I thought that had gotten better.
Well, they have a ring down certain capability to ring that over to us. If it's, Pickens can do that and we can do that as well if it needs to be transferred.
The same scenario could happen if you're traveling 400. You're right there on that county line, Dawson, Forsyth.
Okay.
You may very well hit that Forsyth County tower,
Oh, really?
get Forsyth County 911 for an incident that's actually in Dawson County.
Oh.
And most 911 agencies are very familiar with how to process that call and turn down. It happens probably almost daily, actually.
Yeah, 'cause I can tell you from my house, you can get Forsyth County if you call 911 on a
Oh,
cell phone.
really? So, as you said, there's nothing that can be done, I mean, that's just something y'all live with.
Technology gets better.
Yeah.
Just
Maybe
which
it'll
tower it
improve
hits.
it, But it's really, it's tower. It's all about the tower that cell phone hits.
And the second they give them the address, it's GIS located where the house is at, so it's
Correct.
automatically.
Once that operator starts plugging it
Yeah.
in, they're, yeah,
It's
they're
easy.
able to transfer it to the local location.
Other questions for Chief Thompson?
Is much time lost when all that's going on? Do you know about how?
I'd say on average, I'd say 30 seconds to process.
That's not bad. That's as good as you can do, so. Yeah.
With today's technology, that's all you need.
Yeah, that's right.
Any other questions for Chief Thompson? Thank you, sir. Next up, we have a presentation of 2020 charity boot drives. Danny, you're doing that too?
Yes, sir. This is our annual request to participate in our 3 charity boot drives. And as you all very well know, we participate in the Georgia Burn Foundation, the Muscular Dystrophy Association, and then the Care for Kids. In your packet, I've provided you the proposed dates, and those typically align with what we have done in the past. For the Burn Foundation, that would be May 21st, 22nd, 23rd. The times will be 9 to 11 and 4 to 6 in the afternoon. The MDA, September 3rd, 4th, 5th, same times. And Care for Kids, November 27th and 28th. Times altered there just a little bit on the afternoon, 3 to 5, is just because of the sun, the daylight, running out a little bit of daylight. We just like to continue this good charitable work that we have done for many years in this county. Now, I'll answer any questions.
Questions for Chief Thompson?
Does anybody got any questions on this one?
I
I just saw something on the previous one. I had a
Okay, go ahead.
question on your map, on the previous thing we were looking at, it looks like our extension area does get into Gilmer County. Do we need to have an IGA with, or not IGA, but automatic aid with Gilmer County?
We actually do have an automatic aid agreement with Gilbert.
And that's already in place?
It's already been in
Okay, we don't
place.
need to renew that one anytime soon?
No, sir.
Okay, excellent. I didn't know if this changed any of that.
And most of those agreements do have a period of where they're renewed.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like if you remember, I think last month we just renewed Cherokee County. So, I mean, I'd have to pull it to tell you exactly when that one comes up
Okay.
for renewal, but right now we're current with our automatic aid agreement.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for jumping back to that.
It's okay. I'm flexible.
Good.
Any questions for Chief Thompson on the boot drives? Okay. We'll move on. Presentation request to set Georgia Child Passenger Safety Mini Grant. Chief Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is just a request. We got the notification that we had received the mini grant. I presented that to you all back in early December. I had to get a little bit of a head nod on that one. They typically wait till about 5 days when it's ready to come out, and they send it to us and everything. We've got that, and again, as you can see, we will receive monthly 6 convertibles, 4 highbacks for those Dawson County residents that meet those financial needs assistance and everything. It's a good program. We just want to go and continue it.
It's at no cost
Answer
to
any
the taxpayer.
questions you may have.
How do you
It's
let,
no cost to the taxpayer.
No cost to the taxpayer. That's correct.
Jenny, how do you let the people know that those are available?
So we use some of our social media platform. The Department of Public Health also works with those who are less fortunate and will refer them over to us, and so we're able to, just really collaborate with some of our other partners. The Sheriff's Office also, they're very integral in car seat install, so, it's kind of a team effort as far as that goes. If they need something and we have the availability to help them, we try to reciprocate back to them.
You get probably calls from DFACS.
We do. Sometimes we get those where we respond to a car wreck, and a child's been in an active car wreck, and that seat at that moment is actually no longer, once it's been in a wreck,
Can't use it.
it's toast. And so sometimes we provide it to people. We have people that are sometimes just traveling, and so to help them out and be able to provide them a safe trip during their continuation, we just try to, be there for them and provide them with these resources.
And who comes up with the financial requirements?
So we use the state
Okay.
financial. That way we would just follow what the state guidelines are as far as that goes, so we can reference them back to it.
I think the sheriff's office. You might be, didn't y'all have a car seat drive thing a while back and give out a bunch of free car seats?
Yes, we do that from time to time. We have a couple of child safety seat technicians, and they go out and inspect them and replace them if necessary.
Is there coordination?
Yeah, we're working on, so just so you know, Katie Strahan, has just reached out to me last week, and she's wanting to do a big blitz, probably sometime spring, warms up, get a little bit better weather, so we're not all in our glossers and trying to get to the commission meeting in a boat. But with that, yes, and when Katie reached out to me, I said, make sure we include the sheriff's department, make sure we reach out to Safe Kids also, because with Safe Kids, what a lot of times they'll do is they'll teach a car seat class leading up to it, and then they'll do this car seat blitz maybe on a Saturday, and then that way students in the class can actually get their check off at that time. And then those that are already car seat techs within our department and within the sheriff's department, they can attend that event because they have to get recertified every year. So this will enable them to also get their recertification at that moment.
So there is coordination then
There is.
moving forward with that.
Yes, sir, always, always.
Are we working with any foster parents? I mean, we had that thing come out a couple of weeks ago, needing foster parents.
We've always.
And I didn't know if we worked with that program, like if they adopt or foster a kid at the last minute, are we supplying them these seats, or anybody ever reached out to us?
But they haven't reached out to us yet, to my knowledge. But if they request, then we will be there.
Okay.
Do we still find, Greg or Chief Thompson, do we still find that when we do our child safety seat checks at some of these things, that 95% of them are still put in improperly?
I don't know what the percentage is, but it's high.
Yeah.
It's high.
Isn't that something? I don't put in blanks, I let Brett, I'm not gonna touch it, because I'd have myself locked in it with something. Needs to be people that are familiar, because I know there is a method to the madness, so.
There's definitely a right and a wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to do it. Other questions?
What is the value of that total whole grant?
Yeah. Had to put me on the spot.
So, I just was
I'd
looking
be
at.
completely guessing, but if you're looking at 6 convertibles, a convertible is probably gonna run about 60 to 80, and, or correction, convertible probably around 50, and then those highbacks probably, I'd say 60, 80, maybe even $100. So, and you're getting that amount of stock replaced every month. So,
For
so I'm gonna stand out there on the limb, probably say, what, about $5,000 worth of seats easily.
About 500 a month, at least $6,000, something along that line. Other questions? Okay, we'll move on. Next up, presentation request to accept emergency management performance grant. Chief Thompson.
So I came before you all at the last meeting, asked for a head nod. If you remember, I told you we were kind of just changed over to the new grants portal. So after we got the blessings from you all, I actually sat down and submitted it that Friday. Monday, we got notification it was awarded. So it's actually already been awarded. And I think tonight at the voting session, you all are going to vote to ratify it. But just so you all know, we have been accepted already for our EMPG grant award. That's a 50-50 match. Basically, the county, we have in budget, $7,784 is our portion. I'll answer any questions that you all may have.
Questions for Chief Thompson?
Grants don't usually work that quickly, do they?
Well, this EM Grants portal is kind of a new thing. It's been a little bit of a learning curve for everybody. So on a couple of my other grants in there that I have, it's not working. This one, when we hit the send button, it went to the area coordinator. He signed off on it. It went to GMA. They signed off on it. And within literally by Monday afternoon, after that previous session, we were approved already. So.
I think they're trying to get the money out before they get cut.
Yeah.
But they're projecting a cut.
Oh, okay.
4%, they're wanting to cut. So they're trying to get the money out to us as quick as they can.
Well, the nice thing about the EMPG grant, though, remember, this is one that comes from FEMA.
Yep.
So it comes from FEMA, but it's funneled through
State.
GMA on the EMPG grant. So,
Pass down, right?
yeah, pass down. I'll answer any questions.
Question for Chief Thompson. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, we have discussion Second Amendment Sanctuary County Resolution. I was contacted by several citizens as well as Shawnee Zappendorf, the chair lady of our Republican Party here in the county, in reference to the county taking a look at coming up with something in reference to the Second Amendment and protection of the Second Amendment rights for citizens of our county. And at that time, I told her to send us over something other that we could send to our county attorney for them to look at. Because I think everyone on this board, won't speak for you, but I can speak for me, believe in the Second Amendment and the rights of our citizens to own and bear firearms. And we want to make sure that this county never does anything that would be jeopardizing to that as well. So I'm going to, I think we've looked at 2 or 3 writings, different resolutions. So I'm going to ask our council to kind of go over that, and then we'll discuss that amongst the board.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. There is a form resolution that's been circulated. I know it was adopted by Habersham County, and it's the only county I know that's adopted it in this form, but it has been circulating. After reviewing it, we have taken that proposed resolution, which I think came through your citizen as well as from Habersham, and we have redlined it and made some changes. Those changes are largely corrections, just quotations of the Constitution that were not correct. A case that name was spelled wrong, several things like that that are just out and out, objective corrections. But then also there's a clarification on the second page of that resolution as to the application of the ordinance as it was presented, resolution. As it was presented, it appears to be geared towards the county deeming itself as a sanctuary city or county, that would not actively enforce federal firearms laws that are deemed to be in violation of the Second Amendment. However, despite the fact that there's several references to this being a refusal to enforce federal law, there were a couple references that made it uncertain as to whether it also is intended to expand to state law. So the revised version that you have from us in long form has the clarifications to federal law. It also has clarifications as to those employees and agents and officials that this board can control. Because obviously we can't control the operations of the sheriff's office or the probate court or the district attorney's office or the superior court and so forth. So there was language added to make clear, and specifically that's at the top of the second page. There's references to no agent, no employee, no official of Dawson County can do certain things, and we clarified that to say, under the authority of this board, just to be clear that we're not intending to overstep and tell other elected officials what they can and can't do. So that's one option for you to consider. The second option, after some conversations with some of you, is, I'm calling it a short form. It was drafted by our office that provides that the county is indicating its commitment to the Second Amendment. The county states that it will make no laws that would infringe upon the constitutional right to bear arms, and also that we affirm the support of our sheriff in the exercise of his discretion when enforcing firearm laws. The short form, candidly, I think, stays very clearly within the lane of what you have control and authority over. The other ordinance as presented, while we did narrow it, it still is fairly broad in terms of the fact that you really don't enforce gun laws. That's something that's left to the sheriff and the courts and the probate court to the extent they're issuing gun permits. All of that's out from under your authority. So I've tried to narrow it to that point, but still the longer form is speaking in terms of refusal to enforce, refusal to fund offices that might enforce, and so forth. And I think in some respects that's creeping out a little bit beyond what you really have the authority to do. So the shorter version is certainly clearly within your authority to say you, the Board of Commissioners, supports the Second Amendment. You, the Board of Commissioners, will not pass an ordinance or a resolution or any laws that will conflict with the Second Amendment. So those are your two options, and I would just commend those to you for your consideration between now and if you bring it up at a future voting session.
I see that Shawnee is now here. Would you like to come up and say anything other than what's already been presented? I will give you that opportunity because you sent the original document to me and to the clerk. And so, and we want to make sure, what we really want to make sure is that we protect the Second Amendment rights of all our citizens within our ability as a board, what we have the legal authority to do. And so that's what we have asked our attorney to put together for us. No, just go ahead.
I just appreciate this opportunity and everyone that I talked to.
Speak into the microphone a little bit more.
I just appreciate your time and thank you for putting on the agenda for consideration. And, with all the stuff that's going on, I appreciate you showing the importance that, you're looking through this for our county.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for council?
Were some of these other counties that were they advocating going against federal law or state law on fire? I mean, to me, we got the Second Amendment, and I'm all for it. We swear on oath that we're going to uphold it. So I don't know. I'm still kind of confused why we have to do it because it's out there.
The research that I've done, and I'm kind of the same situation you're in, is I'm very much a Second Amendment supporter and Constitution supporter. The research that I've seen in all the different places that have done it, it's more of it's a symbolic symbol, and it's it's just saying that we support that. I think if you take it to the extreme, and I don't want to use the word extreme, might not be the right word, but the sanctuary document that we've got, it's more of a passionate thing saying that we're gonna not follow anything that comes down that could, be in variance violation of the Second Amendment, which I think we say that anyways. Reality is we can't enforce that anyway. So I think you say the same thing, that we strongly support the Second Amendment as in a resolution. Being a sanctuary city doesn't mean that we can do anything different. And I've still got to do more research on it, a lot more research on it, but that's what I've seen so far. It's mainly symbolic, stating that we are very much a Second Amendment community, supporting community.
Well, I think it's, short version, like it goes over, that we're not gonna try to do any ordinances or change the law or change ordinances in Dawson County to go against it. Basically.
To go against the
Yeah.
Second
I
Amendment.
mean, that's what it say, we're not gonna bring.
The Constitution.
Constitution, but
Amendment. And the
People
challenge.
have tried stuff before.
The challenge really becomes, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but the sheriff's office is the one that has to implement this stuff, and they take an oath too, that they uphold the Constitution. And so it becomes if a law comes out that constrains our rights based on the Second Amendment, then they would have to decide whether or not they're going to enforce that law or not. That's not this board, but we still can say that we support the Second
Yeah.
We're
Amendment.
gonna support it, not creating any more ordinances or.
Yeah, we wouldn't create an
To go
ordinance
against it.
that would go against it, and that's what the short version that
That's a short version.
Well,
she has
and
put
it-
together helps us do.
And importantly, to your point, Commissioner Foss and Commissioner Gaines, about being symbolic, under state law, we, local government, are preempted by passing laws in the area of gun control because it is a state area of regulation. So while this proclaims that we won't even pass laws, that implicate the Second Amendment, we don't have the authority to do that anyhow because it's preempted by the state. So, but we can say what we won't do. We can't really say what we're gonna be telling the sheriff to do. I mean, the sheriff's gonna make his decisions, I'm quite sure he's gonna uphold the Constitution, but we, us passing a resolution about what the sheriff will enforce, or what the Superior Court judge will enforce, or how the probate court will issue gun permits, all of that, I think, is beyond the purview of this board, but as a symbolic measure and as a supportive measure, I think we can certainly say, we shall do nothing that we have the authority to do that would conflict. And to your point, you swear an oath to uphold the Constitution, which is the Second Amendment, and a lot of other things that are important as well. So,
And I think that's what that short version does. It reinforces that we won't do anything that would be contrary to the Second Amendment rights of all of our citizens here in the county. Other questions, discussion? All right. We'll talk about that the next voting session. County manager report.
Thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner, did you open this up to the floor as citizens allowed to speak about Second Amendment issues?
You want to talk? Come on.
Thank you.
I'll let you.
I thought you were talking to your fellow commissioners.
But I'll let you talk too. Come on up.
My name is Zach Tomlin. I'm an attorney in Dahlonega, and I live in Dawsonville. This is an important issue to people, the Second Amendment. I just wanted to give to the commissioners, the commission, and to Mr. Frey, or Mr. Heatley, I'm sorry, and everybody else, my take on the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment to the United States Constitution says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the defense of the people and the United States, the right of citizens to bear arms shall not be infringed, right? What a lot of people aren't talking about is that Article 1, Section 1, Paragraph 8 of the Georgia Constitution goes farther on that. And it says that the right of the people should have the right to bear arms, but the state can prescribe the manner in which the citizens can bear their arms. So, the Second Amendment has set the floor. The people deserve the right to bear arms, to defend themselves and defend against tyranny. But the federal government, if you look at the interplay between the federal government and the state government, this is states' rights, right? This is the 10th Amendment discussion. The states have the right to govern how their people are going to bear those arms, okay? So I think all of this Second Amendment sanctuary county stuff is great. It's good talk. because we in Dawson County and Lumpkin County, Northwest Forsyth County, we are gun-bearing people, and we always will be. And nobody's going to take our guns. I don't care what you try to do. Okay? So we got to keep the Democrats out of office. But here's the deal. I think the county could look at its ordinances to see if there's anything on the books that address gun rights. Okay? Because just as the Second Amendment says you get the guns to basically defend yourselves, and the state can tell you how you bear your gun. So whether you can take it to church, whether you can take it to a ball game, or whether you can take it to a catfish fry down at the public park. Okay? The state gets to make that choice, and the county could even go further if it wanted to. But here's what I think the county ought to do. We'll trust our state legislators down in Atlanta to pass good public policy so that we don't have to worry about this at the county level. Because I can promise you this, Dawson County is always going to have a state representative, if I have anything to do about it, where the people get to keep their guns to defend themselves, their families, anybody else who tries to hurt them. Okay? Thank you.
Thank
All right. Hi, Dave.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Good afternoon. Just a little project update for you. If you haven't been out to Veterans Memorial Park, it might be worth a trip to you to see the building itself is finally coming up out of the ground. We are vertical, and the trusses have been set and moving quite well out there. So
Right in yet?
starting to look good. They've got the sheeting up on the sides and all, so they're getting real close to doing that. Here's a couple of pictures that we want to show you that were taken the other day. Pardon me?
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Okay. Did everybody get a chance to see the pictures for Veterans Memorial Park?
No pictures.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
A little bit.
All right, I'll try to speak up a little more for you. What I'm saying is if you haven't had a chance to be out to Veterans Memorial Park for the new senior center that's coming up out of the ground, it is vertical now, and their trusses have been set, and the building is coming up and getting ready to get dried in, so we're moving quite well on that. I don't know if, is Dawn, you have anything to add to that, Dawn?
No, they put tieback on the sides this week, and we picked out the roofing color that will match all the other two buildings there, that will match the building that's going on, and they actually did some work on Matt's maintenance building and our adjoining, what's it called? Pavilion. So they started up on the bathrooms on that, and they actually have all the roofing on. I took those pictures last week, but all the roofing is on now, and tieback is around the side. So we were tickled that we got that at least that part on before the rain setting in. So the roofing colors have been picked out, and hopefully that's going to start pretty soon getting that on. We're so excited.
Yeah,
We both are.
Get a chance, you might take a look at it. If you haven't, we have set the date for the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Dawson County Transportation Complex. That's going to have the Public Works Facility, the Scale House, and the Fleet Shop. That date will be on February, I'm sorry, let me back up a second here. That will be held at 3 p.m. Friday, March the 6th at the Public Works and Fleet Buildings on Burke Creek Road. Following the ribbon cutting, there will be refreshments and tours of the new facilities, so we certainly hope our citizens and the commission will all be there. Station 8 has had a rough go at it off of Sweetwater. You know, there's been some soils and houses and stuff that needed to take place that have been done. The steel should have been delivered today, if not today, possibly tomorrow, at the beginning of next week. They've had a rough go of it with the weather, so that's coming up as well, and hopefully get started on that shortly. Also, our county offices will be closed on February the 17th, Monday, in observance of President's Day. And our Emergency Services Director, Danny Thompson, will be recognized at the state capitol on February the 19th by the Georgia EMS Association as a certified Georgia EMS Director. Chief Thompson, by meeting established requirements set forth by the Georgia EMS Association Certification Committee. He will be among the first of the association's leadership alumni to receive this honor. We congratulate Chief Thompson and appreciate his efforts in earning this award. Congratulations, Chief.
What is the award? What was the name of
It's
it?
the Georgia EMS Director's
EMS Director.
Certification.
certification.
So it's a new certification.
And just a short note as well, I also like to recognize Jeff Bailey, who was deputized at the Capitol this week as a Deputy State Fire Marshal. So he as well. I'd like to congratulate him for those efforts as well. And then in closing, and just a small comment, myself and staff want to extend our appreciation to the Commission for the execution and approval of the salary increases, the retirement modification, and the employee handbook. I would also extend that same appreciation to the staff for their hard work and efforts in this process as well. It's a long process, and appreciate all their work and the Commission's approval for those. So thank you much. And that is it.
Questions for County Manager?
There is something that we'd be proud of with our sales tax revenue. Vicki, I think, told us the other day that the first time in the county's history with the ability to have the sales tax generated from the foreign corridor, we collected over $1 million in, was it lost or splosh? I can't even remember. Splosh. So the East Splosh did the same thing. So the school system did the same thing. So that's a thriving economy.
Other questions for the county manager? Other questions? County attorney report.
Yes, sir, no public report, but I do have a need for executive session to discuss personnel.
Personnel. Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
By Commissioner Fawcett, seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. We will take about 5 minutes and then we will meet in executive session. We welcome everyone to stay for our 6 o'clock voting session. Thank you for your attendance.